Welcome viewers to another fireside chat of Jumboot Consulting. Jumboot Consulting, in its pursuit to enable veterans for seamless transitioning to corporate world, conducts series of fireside chat with veterans who have successfully transitioned into corporate careers and entrepreneurship to understand their transition journey. This enables veterans to understand their possible do's and don'ts to chalk out a customized transition journey for themselves. We also interact with HR business and business leaders who have hired and managed veterans to gain insights as also to understand about veteran employability in their respective industries. Jumboot Consulting has been launched on 27th May, and till now we have successfully conducted one webinar, two fireside chat, and 20 individual focus sessions. Over to you, Jyoti.
Thank you. With that brief of Jumboot Consulting, let us now keep our focus on to the guest speaker for the day, Praful Nangya. Praful is a veteran himself. He served in the Indian Army for 7 years before, hanging up the boots and moving into the corporate world. He started his career with one of the top recruitment companies in India, which is Hunt Partners, and he was with them for a good 9 years in various capacity. Then he decided to go into an entrepreneurial venture to start his own venture called Talent North, where he's been running it successfully for over 3.5 years. So from a recruiter's perspective, we will try and understand what is it that the transitioning veterans should look forward to, and I hope we'll have a very meaningful and invigorating discussion today. Yes, Abhishek, so over to you. So first, I think the first thing I'll take up. So Praful, thank you so much for taking the time out for this session today. And the participants and all of us would like to know about how was your journey in the defense. If you could just take us through as how the overall experience was by the time that you spent in the defense services.
Right. Well, firstly, thank you, Jyoti and Abhishek, for inviting me here today. It's a pleasure. And look, the journey was fairly similar, Jyoti. I, after 12th, ended up in NDA. Abhishek and I think we are postmates from the academy. And then, of course, post NDA, I got commissioned to my father's unit. So he was from RT. I went to his unit, so second generation in that sense. And I was trying to follow his footsteps. He was in Army Aviation. I opted for aviation. Met with an accident, broke my arm, was in LMC for a couple of years. And that's what gave me some time to think as to what is it that I want to do. Do I want to continue with certain limited abilities, or do I want to do something different? I put in about 6.5 years, so it was an easy decision to take that. Okay, maybe it is the right time to move out and try something else. And so I left after I think about 7 years of services when I quit. I think it just happened. Things just fell into place. When I left, there was this resettlement course starting. I was doing that, and while I was doing the course, in fact, before I had even put in my papers, I'd given my GMAT, so I was also filling up applications for India. During the resettlement course, I got to ISB and ended up there.
Well, that's quite an exciting journey. For the journey beyond, I'll request Abhishek sir to take on.
Thanks, Jyoti. Thanks, Praful, for your information about your career in defense. Sure. Can you please throw some light on your initial transition journey, including your initial education, like you said about ISB and the corporate career?
Okay. I think the initial journey, Abhishek, started, I think, and about 18 months before I actually left, because that was the time I was actively thinking of leaving, right? So that decision had been made, but I felt that I did not have the right information with me. So there was a lot of time spent doing a lot of research with limited internet availability. I reached out to a lot of people who were in the process of quitting, who had quit, and got a lot of insights from them as to what were they doing, which helped. So in that sense, I would say I think it was, going back to the typical military learning, one foot on the ground, right? So that is what I did. Thought ahead, looked ahead. So it was in that sense, I took very calculated risks to say that, all right, I'm going to quit. There was a resettlement. I felt I had a fighting chance for an admission somewhere given my GMAT score. And I was like, okay, most probably I'll get through. If not, fine, I'm doing this course, I'll get a job. So that's how I planned. Uh, the resettlement course, to be honest, I thought that it'll help me when I went to ISB, but I was quite horrified because people from my background, we were called 2 weeks for a pre-orientation week, and they covered whatever was covered in India in 6 months. ISB covered that in 1 week. So there throughout the 1 year at ISB, the whole focus was that I should not be the academy full stop. That is it. That was the entire. And I think it was that 1 year on campus was very interesting. I met so many people from different walks of life. It was a very interesting batch. So my classmate, the ex-hockey captain Viren Raskina was my classmate.
Oh.
There was, there was this. I mean, there were people from professions that I had not heard of, right? So there was this lady. She was a fraud investigator with an insurance company. I didn't even know that this is a job. So it was very, very interesting to learn about the background of people there. And of course, there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning which happens, which was the crux of that 1 year.
Thanks, Praful. Praful, can you share some more light on your stint with your first job with Hunt Partners and the entire corporate career before you moved into entrepreneurship?
All right. Look, it was a very different choice, right? I mean, when you walk into campus, you have dreams in your eyes that you're going to be a king one day. Nobody wants to be the kingmaker. But anyway, so while the other interviews were happening, I got a call out of the blue from these guys. They said, "You've come across your profile. Why don't you come and talk to us?" And I told them, I said, "Look, I don't even understand what you do. So what do I talk?" So they said, "No, we'll explain everything." So it turned out to be quite interesting what they did. It was a very small entity. There were just 12 people at that time. And they were doing some interesting high value work. So Hunt Partners typically does leadership hiring and helps companies put their boards together. So that was the kind of setup. And, there were limited mandates in a year because these were very big ticket mandates in terms of what our fees was. So it was quite interesting. I think now I'll probably link it back to before I quit. I realized I had no clue about life outside. I had spent all my childhood in cantonments, and after that I was in cantonments myself. So I had to spend a lot of time trying to understand what life outside is all about. I started reading the Economic Times, and I kept a track. I remember the first day I read it, I think 90% of the paper was highlighted. And then slowly over a period of 6 months, the highlighted portion started reducing. That at least what that paper was saying. And in that sense, this job was very interesting because you were working for different clients, which were across different sectors, hiring for different functions. Which meant that before you even start the search, there was a lot of learning which had to be done, before you could even talk to a candidate. So I remember I did one search in structured finance. I had no clue about structured finance. So I found out a batchmate who was in equity capital markets, had a lunch with him, told him, at least tell me what it does. What's the lingo? What do people talk about? How do you figure out whether a person is good or bad? So that's how I realized that this profession is very interesting. You learn on a daily basis. So while it's like you become a jack of all trades, a master of none, but you can hold a conversation on any topic because you learn from the people you speak with. And so it was a good journey. 9 years with them. I came to Delhi in 2015. They never had a Delhi presence, so we opened the Delhi office. And I think that was the time when I felt that, okay, maybe something different, because I said, technically this is my first corporate job and I need to do something else. It just so happened that things started falling into place and I kind of bumped into the right people and we kind of created this entity. So what we do is we are a talent advisory platform. we basically help our clients across two levers which affect talent. Typically it's either capability or intent. Now on the capability side, you can either upskill or replace the individual. We don't do the upskilling. We help companies replace or hire. And on the intent side, we have a vertical which focuses on leadership development, coaching, a lot of cultural alignment. So that's what we do. But the transition, Abhishek, was fairly smooth because my skill set remains the same. It's this is what I learned. And when I was leaving, there was a lot of thoughts that okay, maybe I should do something else. And then I met this individual who gave me some data points. So what he told me was, he said about 80% of people on this planet, they start with a profession and they retire from the same profession. And about 16% people do a career transition, a change in profession. So in the sense that they unlearn and they relearn. And there's just about 4% of people who are able to do it twice. So this gentleman said, in your case, if you want to do something else, you're attempting to be in the 4%. So you better be very careful about what you're doing. And then I said, all right, I mean, if this is the skill that I have, I might as well use it. I enjoy it. So that's the best part of it.
Interesting, very interesting journey you have had, Praful, and I echo with the anecdote which you have shared, like you're highlighting the economic times daily, every day, how much you have not understood, and it reduces over a period of 6 months. Speaks highly about the resilience of a veteran. Means a field which you are not aware of, you have taken that interest, that effort, and I'll say that dogged effort to understand that field, and the way you are interacting with your batchmates to understand the equity markets. And you said jack of all, master of none, but in your field you need to speak the lingo of the client, the lingo of the target executive. I really appreciate your response. Thanks Praful. Over to Jyoti.
Sure.
Well, one key takeaway for me, and I think for all the participants who are looking at transitioning from defense forces to the corporate world, is preparation, planning in advance is the key. So Praful almost planned 18 months in advance before doing the the jump. So that's a big takeaway, that one needs to do that. And second was peer-to-peer learning. So these, when all the participants who are on the planning stage of stepping out, do ensure that when you go to the B school, there is a lot of peer-to-peer learning, because there will be a very diverse group of people who will come into the back to study in. So learn from as many as you can. Well, you did briefly touch upon this, Praful, but I'd still like to understand in detail as to how do you exactly get into entrepreneurship. So you moved into Delhi in 2015,
right,
and you said that you met somebody. But if you can just give us a brief about how did Talent North actually, and how did your entrepreneurship journey happen? The participants would be really interested to know that.
Right. So it's an interesting story. There were no thoughts at that point in time. There were some rumblings in Bombay saying that, okay, maybe you should come back to Bombay. I'd never been home. Delhi is home. And I said, after so many years I've come here, I'm not sure I want to go back to Bombay again. In the midst of all this, I was doing a search. This was a head of strategy search, and another postmate of ours, this gentleman, Deepak Iyer, his name popped up on my calendar. I was supposed to have a conversation with him. And I said, I know this guy, he's a good friend. So anyways, I had a chat with Deepak, and so Deepak had also left fairly early on, around the same time that I had. Very different career trajectories. He went to IIM Ahmedabad, and from there he was working with McKinsey. So at the time when I spoke, he was coming out of a startup that he had attempted to do, and he was looking for the next thing. So we had a chat about this role, and at the end of it, I told him, I said, Deepak, you've tasted blood in terms of being an entrepreneur. I don't think you can go back to a regular 9 to 5, 9 to 6 kind of a job anymore. So he didn't get it. He said, okay, I'll come back to you. And he called me after about 2 weeks. He said, you were right. I don't think I want a job. I think I want to do something on my own. So I said, all right, now your problem is solved. Now you solve mine, because I feel I'm also stuck in a rut now. And, I think that's where the initial bricks of Talent North started falling into place, because I know search. That's all I've done for so many years. And Deepak was gravitating towards leadership development. Even at McKinsey, he was working on a lot of human capital transformation projects. So we felt that it was a very synonymous relationship. You're addressing the same client requirements. And in my head, I felt that the market typically stereotypes you, right? So if you're a headhunter, that's what you're good enough for. Whereas I would always keep claiming that we can do more, but it never worked. But with this, we could diversify. And it gave an opportunity to have more of an advisory platform rather than just a recruiting sweatshop.
Quite interesting to learn how you and Deepak complemented and your thoughts came together to give birth to Talent North. Would now like Abhishek sir to ask the next set of questions.
Thanks, Jyoti. Okay, Praful, can you share us the skill sets which were ingrained in your defense career, which helped in entrepreneurship, and what skill sets you needed to be picked up later on?
All right, so I will if I have some leeway, can I link it to saying what are the skill sets which helped outside of uniform?
Okay, please.
I think broadly what you would learn from your time in the academies and in services that, of course, leadership skills, how to manage people, how to deal with people. You also get this whole attitude of saying that you just can't give up, right? I mean, if there's an objective, you just have to achieve it. There is no other way. The third, what I realized, which really was quite interesting, was that I would see a lot of people around me getting stressed with the workload, with deadlines, etc. But I felt that okay, fine. I mean, this is part of life. This is it, right? I mean, this is the deadline. You just have to finish the job. Why cry about it? So I think managing stress was something which I felt was a big help. Then, is of course, I think solution. That orientation to find a solution for every problem. And that I think you learn in early part of your career as a YO. You go to anybody and they would say, all right, you've come up with a problem. Where are the options of solutions for this problem? Right. So I mean, just kind of constantly thinking about what can be the ideal solution for the problem, and then going, of course, to your boss and asking, can I do this? Right. So that helped. I think the ability to take risks. You can think beyond what you see, and that is very important in anything that you do. Right? I mean, what are the ramifications of any decision that you take? That was one. The second is, of course, and this is not what I learned, but this is, I think, my theory that look, the SSBs have an algorithm, right? So typically, people who get picked up, I would say, are in the 70th to say the 80th percentile. And no offense if somebody is above the 80th percentile, but typically it's 70th to 80th percentile in terms of capability and intellect. And all your life you're competing with people who are more or less at par with you, right? So it's not that you lose; it's just like you stop running. That's about it. But when you come outside, you're competing with people on a scale from 0 to 10, and you're already in the 70th, 75th percentile. So you're much better any which ways. So that was one thing which became very clear very quickly. I think the second was Abhishek, that while a lot of people would compare, I'm sure you would have experienced this. A lot of people would compare that, oh, my previous company was better, my previous job was better, the work culture there was better. Here, I had no previouses to compare anything to, right? It was a blackboard. So whatever this was good enough. So I think that helped. I think what I learned and how you survive outside is, of course, you need to quickly pick up some new skills, right? These could be functional skills. These could be skills related or information related to your industry. You need to learn very quickly what really networking means, what does relationships mean, and how do you leverage your networks and relationships. The second is, I think, what also helped was, this willingness to learn. A lot of people, for whatever reason, they're very shy of, I would say, very shy of accepting that they don't know anything, right? They'll just keep quiet. Whereas I think for people from our background, it's just so simple to say, nahi aata, bata do kaise karna hai. I'll do it. So I think that ability to learn, ability to talk to people across levels without any egos. You know, you can go down to a tapri with a 20-year-old and have a cup of chai and come back, right? So that is something which helps. The second, what I learned was, you know, when you talk about entrepreneurship, is that I think there needs to be a willingness to experiment. You can't be running a template. You cannot have any egos, and I think the rest automatically falls into place, right? I mean, once you're not bound by any structures that this is only what you can do anything you want.
Thanks, Praful. I think very well summed up. Just some of the major points you said. The learnings from the defense career was never say die, leadership skills, problem-solving skills, ability to take risks. I think that grooming which we had in our careers, maybe even the training in NDA, the training in IMA and OTA, and even the career in defense, it has imbibed us with those that never say die attitude, which helps us to take just not worry about any timelines and stress. I have seen those situations in corporate where people were struggling with their time management, multitasking, and I was like, okay, ठीक है, हो जाएगा, don't worry. कल सुबह तक कर देंगे, रात को कर देंगे. Thanks. And the new learnings which you said, I think were very important point around willingness to learn. People, veterans, when they are transitioning with the service career of 20 to 30 years with ranks of colonels and brigadiers, it becomes difficult because of the baggage they are carrying. And it is very important to leave that baggage and have that willingness to learn, so that you can pick up new skills, ask very simply to a peer, corporate peer, that what is this, and don't feel shy about it. I think that helps a lot, Praful. Thank you, Praful. Over to Jyoti.
Thank you, Abhishek sir. And I'll add to that one more thing which I probably picked up was learning quickly how to network and build relationship. I think that's a very key factor to be successful in the corporate career. Now, we do have a lot of participants out here who are transitioning from the defense career into a corporate world. So what would be some of your recommended do's and don'ts for these transitioning veterans? And I mean, I'm not saying that it has to be a recommended template, but you know, something which will help these transitioning veterans to identify their path and make it more structured for them.
All right. So it's a laundry list, my laundry list, right? I mean, there's no right or wrong. I think the first is, the ability to unlearn. What happens is when you're staying in an organization which is so structured, wherein every minute of your day, every step of your career is defined by somebody else, you start thinking that this is the normal, whereas it is not, right? So I remember talking to this gentleman when I was leaving, and he said, if you walk up to your RP gate and you're not very enthused by the way the guy says Jai Hind Sahab, and you start shouting at the guard commander there, he said, then that means you're not ready to leave, right? So he said, you have to attain that stage of nirvana that it just doesn't matter what's happening around you. You walk into a mess, the waiter doesn't come running to ask you for what you will drink. It should not bother you or fluster you. I think that's the beginning, right? Then the second is also about being realistic about what do you want to do, right? I mean, it's like, can you answer these simple questions of why, how, and what? Why do you want to leave, firstly? What do you want to do, and how will you do it? And there I felt that a lot of people are probably not very sure. I get a lot of calls of people wanting to leave, right? But I realized that there's a lot of misinformation which they have. They feel that it's going to happen. Sometimes like saying that, look, that guy had a Bravo in his courses and he is doing this, and I got an Alpha, so I can do much better. It doesn't work like that, right? So I think that is one thing. Everybody is unique. Everybody has their own unique skill sets. You just need to find your own place. The second is you need to invest in yourself, in terms of time, in terms of education. Look, education will never go waste. I'll be very honest to say that I don't think I learned anything in that 1 year on campus in terms of education. But I think what I walked away with was a very, very huge network, right? I mean, if I can claim today that 30% of my clients are alumni, that speaks volumes, right, of just the network. The second is I remember this incident. My first search, I got introduced to my first client, and one of these partners went along and he said, "Okay, you've just hired this person and he'll be doing your search." And this guy was like, "Why this guy? He has no experience. How will he do it?" And then when the introductions happen, okay, you're an ex-NDA. Oh, you went to ISB. The guy was very comfortable, right? So it's just about how do you bring credibility. So education is going to bring credibility. The second is another thing that I've always felt with people and specifically veterans or transitioning veterans, is that, there is this tendency to have a confirmation bias. They've heard of something, they figured out that, okay, this is what is the right step to do. And people tend to, just kind of keep talking to people until somebody confirms what their bias is. So I think one should be open to listening to feedback. Talk to as many people as you can. Do what you want is my belief in life. But don't fall prey to this confirmation bias. The second is, of course, there is a lot of PCK available. All of us understand PCK, right? There's a lot of PCK available, but can you utilize it well, right? I mean, there are no free lunches, right? So if you talk to somebody who's already transitioned outside, but you've not done your homework to even ask the right questions, what is the point? And I learned this when I was moving out. I had no clue that there's something called GMAT, and I called this gentleman a couple of courses senior, and he said, "Sunny boy, no free lunches, homework karke aao, then call me." So I did my homework, I called them, and then of course he helped me as much as he could, right? So I think that's very important to do. The second is, once you've transitioned out, you need to have a story, right? I mean, it has to be a logical story about who you are, what do you want to do. Again, somebody told me that, look, you can sell your uniform only once to get a job. After that, it is basis of what you do in that job which will get you your next gig. But what is it that you want to do? I mean, unfortunately, people sometimes say that I can do anything, right? But what does that mean? And I think there's a lot of work which to be needed, right? I mean, I don't know how many people actually go and spend a couple of days with a friend in their office when you're on leave, just to see how it works, what this person does. I think that will give a lot of clarity. So yes, a lot of homework. The second is, I think there is this, I feel that sometimes there is this herd mentality, right? Look, any which is the universe conspires, right? So if you're leaving, you will end up talking to people who are leaving. That's what your friend circle will become. But then, I mean, a lot of people fall into this trap of doing a lot of certifications which may or may not have any value. You end up doing a PMP, you will end up doing some analytics course, a Six Sigma, for example. What value does that add to you? Unless you want to learn, right? Because is there any real life experience in actually utilizing those skill sets? No. Are you expected to actually be a Black Six Sigma expert in an organization? No, there will be people doing it, right? You're just supposed to understand a little bit. So instead of doing these courses, maybe spend some time doing a better certification. You want to do an MBA, sure, but do some good course is what I feel.
Great. I'll summarize some of the points for our participants. One is obviously the ability to unlearn. One has to be very realistic about what you want to do once you step out. That was the second point Praful spoke about. A very important point about investing in yourself, which is about the education part of it, which will help you build credibility. Then he also spoke about the fact that a lot of people have this tendency to have confirmation bias. So rather doing that, be open to feedback and take as much information. Find what is relevant for you, but be open to feedback. And lastly, he did speak about you all need to have your own story as to why you want to go out and what is it that you really wish to do. Very important, words of wisdom, Praful. Thank you for that. Let's move to Abhishek sir for the next set of questions.
Thanks, Jyoti. Thanks, Praful, for I'll say very, very intelligent insights for the veterans. I will just try and speak on a few of them. Why do you want to leave? What do you want to do? How you want to do? The entire story part of transition is something where I see very many people struggle. They may say, as Praful has said, that person was I was a ACA and he was an ordinary cadet. I can do much better than him. But you need to know the exact reason why you want to leave, because as we do our trainings in NDA, IMA, OTA, Air Force Academy, the first thing which we are taught is what is the objective. Once we know the objective, then we can chart out our path. So it is very important to know the why of transitioning. That is, thanks Praful. Second thing, I think for the interest of the viewers, I should tell them PCK is previous course knowledge. So whenever we used to go on a course, we used to carry the PCK material from seniors and subordinates to prepare better for the course. Last one is about too many certifications, which Praful said, and I really acquire in last 20 odd days when I have started this Jumboot Consulting, I've been getting too many calls on people, and they're saying that they've done PMP, CPP, CFE, supply chain online course, this course, that course. And I ask them that you belong to a particular function, you belong to a particular regiment, you imbibe those skills and functions. Why don't you focus on building your brand around those functions and skills, and do courses which echoes your brand, which adds to your brand? See, every person, Praful Nagia is a brand in himself. The day he left army and he moved, created his career in Hunt Partners and now his own entrepreneurship, he has built his own brand. So every activity he does, every communication he speaks out needs to resonate with his brand. Otherwise, it will show a lot of dissonance for the people who are hearing to him or are viewing him as a brand. So thanks, Praful. I think very influential insights. Over to the next question. For the benefit of transitioning veterans who have limited awareness of this field, can you tell us something about how a headhunter operates and how he zeroes on a candidate for a client?
Look, personally, I feel it's a beautiful profession, right? When it keeps your gray cells ticking, you learn a lot. But how does it work? All right. So what we do is, we spend a lot of time trying to understand the client's business requirement, which means what is the business context? Why do they want to hire? What is this person supposed to deliver on the ground? And along with that, we also keep a track of what is the cultural DNA of that organization. Is the manager a micromanager? Is there a lot of leeway? What kind of individual will fit in? And that kind of gives us some idea about what this individual could be, right? So like, for example, yesterday we were talking to somebody about a role, and the whole conversation was that this is a startup, but the aspiration is to get somebody from a blue chip, a marquee company, maybe somebody who, so this was for a marketing role. Aspiration was saying that, okay, why not somebody from a Unilever or a Procter & Gamble? But then there are challenges, because even if you find somebody from a Unilever or a Procter & Gamble, that person will not be able to adjust in this startup environment, right? So what you're looking for is somebody maybe who's done some basic grounding work in a levers, has worked in a startup. 80% of those people will run back to the levers of the world again, and 20% will enjoy working in a startup environment. So then that's what you're focusing on. And that is how we go about it. So it's really cut and slice and dice it to say that, okay, this is what you want. This is the broad universe of talent, and this is the addressable talent pool out of it. Then, of course, there's a lot of conversations with the candidates. I'm not an HR person. This is a sales job, right? I need to sell twice. I need to get the candidate interested in the job, and then I need to sell this candidate to my client. That is my job. Of course, the rest, the search process, it's a flow chart, right? It's an algorithm. You do this, and this is what the end output will be like. But the whole idea is to make sure there's a meeting. There's a matching of the mind and matching on the functional and the cultural fit. And if you have done that well, then it works. And I think the way it works well is that I need to be very passionate about what my client does. I need to be passionate about their business, and I need to hire with the mindset that, I own this business and I'm hiring this person for myself. And if I can answer those questions satisfactorily, I will, definitely say, okay, this is the guy for you or the lady for you.
Thanks, Praful. Thanks a lot. I think very interesting job you have. And I think how you search for a candidate must be a very complex process, going through that flowchart processes. And I'm sure the SOP adherence in defense must have taught you to not miss each and every step, follow each and every step to ensure you get the right result, right?
My third partner, she's a black belt. Yeah? So she's made sure that our process is tickety boo. So
Great, great. So I just have a follow-up question on this. Means you
No.
said about this process, you said about this entire process way you are headhunting. Can you share some insights how your experiences in defense is helping you do this? Any particular insights on that?
To be honest with you, other than probably communication and presentation skills, the rest are skills that one has learned on the job, and you learn from your mistakes. But I think what really helps is, like I again said, the credibility, right? When you talk to a candidate, because you've done your homework, and you always do your homework. Even now, I've been doing this for like 11 years, but you still do your homework before a call. That helps, and in that sense, of course, is going back to the basics every day. So that is something that you probably imbibe from what you did earlier.
Thanks, Praful. I think one of the point I would like to share is like veterans and as Praful said that in startups, in new organizations, there's a lot of chaos, and means veterans with a never say die attitude, they thrive in chaos. They want chaos to happen because they are master of a jack of all and master of none. So they don't need a JD, they don't need a job description. You tell them that this needs to be done. I was speaking to one lady officer who was in Air Force. She has joined as a supply chain head in an organization, and she is handling the legal cases of that organization. She is handling the manufacturing part of that organization. So that's the beauty of our experience in defense sector, which helps us to break our boundaries and do anything. Thanks, Praful. Over to Jyoti.
Thanks, sir. So now that Abhishek sir was just talking about the versatility of what a veteran can bring to the table. So what would be your message, Praful, to the larger corporate world in terms of some of the benefits which veterans bring to the table when they are hired as employees?
Look, I think Abhishek summed up most of it. They get the job done, right? I mean, you can't doubt that. I feel that veterans, they're fairly dedicated to what they are doing. They're very loyal. They always keep the interest of the organization in mind. And I'll give you a simple example here, right? So early days in my first job, and we were meeting this client at Four Seasons in Bombay, and everybody was ordering tea, and I picked up the menu. I saw a cup of tea was $800. I said, bloody hell, who drinks tea for $800? So I just had some water, and when we walked out, my boss said, why didn't you order? I said, nahi, 800 rupees ka tha, why waste money? Whether it's not my money, it's the company's money, but it's somebody's money, right? So I think that idea of keeping the interest of the organization in mind always is very high, which is something which a lot of corporates value. So I think these are the things which are there. And secondly, of course, they're very versatile. I think they pick up things very quickly, and they always add value in every circumstances. I'll again give you an example. When I got this job, 2009, not the best of times as far as the economy was concerned. So there was no work for the first couple of months. And all I did was I rewrote a lot of manuals which were there. That's what I did. There was nothing else to do. I said, chalo, theek hai, let me refresh the manuals that they are.
Great. So versatility, going above and beyond for the organization and always adding values are some of the characteristics which veterans bring to any corporate which they are being hired for. Let's have Abhishek sir ask the next set of questions.
Thanks, Jyoti. Before I move to the next question, I would like to share one experience of mine, what Praful shared. So when I got into corporate, I was staying in JW Marriott in Chandigarh along with my boss. And then the evening time was there. We were supposed to have dinner, and I saw the menu, and I decided that we will have food in the dhaba, Pal Dhaba, which is nearby. And he said, why? When I said, this much money, we can have many meals for many days. Don't worry, don't waste money. It is company's money. And if we'll save it, we will eventually get it someday back. So that's how we Fauji's think, because we have always been frugal, very, very resourceful to find ways out to do at a cheaper cost. That's what we have been learned, because every time, though it seems that in forces, there's a enough of manpower, but we are always constrained on manpower. We are always struggling how to get a job done, how to optimally utilize our manpower which is available to us. So that is what we have been taught in our defense career. Thanks, Praful. So my next question, Praful, is since you are a headhunter, can you suggest some industries and verticals where you have seen more demand for veterans, and any industry which are opening up?
I will not want to do that, Abhishek, because what I fear is that again, any which way the world outside is going to stereotype people from our fraternity, and if I do that, they will focus only on that. I can cite some examples of what unique things people have done, right? I will of course give you an overview of where all typically hiring happens, but let me first give you some examples. Now there is this gentleman I met some time back, an ex-NDA, left. And ended up doing a master's in economics, and he became an economist with the World Bank, right? Left with about 10, 12 years of service, but of course, focused a lot. There is again a veteran who is one of the co-founders at this local milk delivery app called Milk Basket. There's another veteran who's running this company just very soon to be a unicorn called MyGate. Right now, these are people who are coming from the same background as the rest of us here, but they've done something very different. So, from that point of view, I would say, the sky is the limit. Don't restrict your horizons. Do what you want to do. But of course, you have to believe in what you're trying to do, right? So for example, there will be a lot of failures. You'll have to try 3-4 different things if you're doing something on your own, and maybe one of them will succeed. But if you're looking for a regular job, look, the easy fit, of course, what everybody says is human resources, and there is nothing wrong with human resources. I don't know. I hear from so many people, oh, but it's typical HR. I don't want to do HR. Firstly, I don't believe that being in the armed forces, we are doing human resources, right? I mean, if you have somebody who's bound by the rules of the Army Act, I don't think that is human resources in the true sense. Managing educated people who I would say are bound by the IPC is very different from what people or resource management you're doing in the armed forces. Secondly, these are very educated people, very aspirational. So it's a challenging task. Human resources for sure. Operations, yes. With the boom in e-commerce and the so e-commerce, logistics, the allied industries along with it, right? So operations definitely, and of course sales and business development. Why not? I mean, what does it mean? You just need to learn some skills, right, in terms of the product or the service that you're selling, and the rest is just conversations. So that's not something that nobody has ever done. The only thing is, for a few of these, the stereotypes will work, right? If you're looking at operations, human resources, maybe admin, the stereotyping works very well in our favor. For the others, you need some certification, some credibility to add to your CV, which will come in terms of a good program that you've done from elsewhere.
Thanks, Praful. I think very interesting insights. There are a lot of barriers which the veterans have broken. There are many interesting fields where I know people who are working or they have founded organizations. One of my known veteran is a CEO of an app which is going to work, I can say unify the dental system across India. So it's My Dental Care. Harminder Multani is again a founder of that organization. Similarly, we have many such examples who are doing. Jumbo Tail is one such example where the veteran is a co-founder. So I think, as Praful said, and I think he's diplomatically initially tried to divert the question by saying that why to build stereotypes, and that's very true. Why can't we believe in ourselves and say that, as we believe have in our defense tenures, we have said that nothing is impossible. Why can't we think now? Why are we afraid of taking risks? Why can't we take those risks and say this is what I'm capable of and this is what I want to do? And obviously it will take time, it will take that struggle, we'll get those injuries on our knees and elbows, but eventually we'll get where we want to be. Thanks Praful. Over to Jyoti.
So that was quite an interesting discussion with you, Praful. And now we open the house to all our participants to ask questions. We have Praful. You can either write it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask questions. He'll be happy to address them. We have about 11 participants. Any one of you can unmute yourself or probably type in and ask your question. We will have Praful answer them for you.
Yeah, Brigadier Jeevan has a question. So you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah. Hi, Abhishek, Praful, and everyone. Wonderful discussion. Heartiest compliments to each one of you. I have one question and one observation. Observation first. While we are in service, we are capable. We are confident of doing our job. Why? Because we have trained for it. We have done specialist courses for it. And then we are employed or not employed, or wherever we are employed, we work with outstanding efficacy, outstanding results. The same me, when I go out, I find myself in a dwindling boat. I find my confidence is going down. I find the world is so huge. I don't know where to apply, how to apply. Will I get it? Will I not get it? And as many questions. I've been slightly lucky in the sense, while serving in the services, army, I was exposed to working of the corporate, working of education institutes, especially as my tenure as instructor in College of Defense Management. So one was able to observe closely as to how a manager is working. How do I assess his abilities? So the observation is that he has developed abilities based on the courses he's done and based on capability that he has, and he's there where he is. The question, Praful, is that while we know large number of courses, there is a rush for doing PMP courses, rush for doing Six Sigma, rush for many more typical courses. But if you have to skill in a direction, how do you suggest somebody to skill a set of courses that should guide him in a very pinpointed manner towards a job, and he achieves it in a given time frame? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's an interesting question. I'll try my best to answer it. So I feel, it again boils down to saying, what are you planning to do after you leave, right? And then you start looking for courses or certifications which are relevant. I mean, okay, there's a trend, people are doing it, so everybody's doing it. But in this case, if you talk about education, there are courses available. If I recall correctly, Columbia University has a teachers college, and they have quite a few courses which are available online. So, I mean, if somebody is interested in education, just go to an online course from there, which will have so much more value as compared to what any of these certifications will give you. But again, it is like very focused on on the industry or the function that you want to do. The second, on the confidence, sir, it's also, unfortunately, I've seen it, we've experienced it. Somehow, veterans transitioning out, they seriously, they stumble. There's this huge stumble, and it takes a while for them to kind of figure out what's going on. Maybe it is because you're just out of your out of your comfort zone, and that will take time. So you spend some time outside, wherein you're not, I mean, that sense of that's a very strong and a negative word, but when you're in a situation wherein it doesn't matter where you're from or what your rank is, everybody is equal, and there you fall back on what you've done in the past, sir. I think it's more of that. I don't think any course can actually teach you anything. It is just a conviction in your own strengths as to saying that, yes, I can do this. There is nothing, there is no rocket science in any job, except of course being a rocket scientist. But I think it is all about saying, do you believe in yourself? And if you do, then I think you can have a conversation. I think some time spent just understanding the industry, the sector, will always help, sir. It'll give you the confidence. I've seen people saying that, okay, I want to do operations. When I ask them, okay, which industry, there's a blank. Then they say, okay, but every company has operations. I said, yeah, but it'll be different for different companies, right? The connotation of operations, say, for example, financial services operations is very different from, say, a logistics company operations. So that's, I think, where, that there's a gap in understanding. And for that, people have to just, I guess, either talk to people, because you are on LinkedIn. Everybody, I'm assuming, is on LinkedIn. You're connected to, say, 5,000, 6,000 people, but how many people do you actually speak with, right? I mean, just increasing your the number of connections you have doesn't really add any value. Just write to them, say that, okay, just want to have a 10-minute chat, introduce myself, ask them about what they do. That is how you learn.
Thanks.
So I don't know whether it answered your question. So
no, it's all right. Perfectly fine. While we are discussing, no answers is perfect and no answer is incorrect. You've given a very clear direction as to where do I wish to place myself in the world outside. As you said, the world is so huge. I don't know. I fail to identify my defense abilities in a comparative manner in the civil. And therefore, the confidence that I carry, ki kar lunga, khinch dunga, and the ability to execute smaller tasks in a civil environment matters a lot. And that is where possibly Abhishek and us and Jyoti and all of us are attempting to guide the veterans to focus, narrow down, where do you wish to go? If we are able to narrow down, latch on to one job, koi to bus pakdo. And the moment you get into one bus, you have a choice of thereafter going to train or flying in another aircraft. So what is important is get the first bus. Now the first bus should not, or the first train should not be the passenger train or the local bus. That is the aim. I wish to get the best bus, all right. But am I prepared? Do I have the abilities? What do I need to do for that? I need to identify. And that's where I think Abhishek is well qualified to answer these questions. Ki, sir, aapne kahan jana hai? Let us discuss and talk. That is where when I went to Air India in 2008, they were in doldrums. You all know Air India. And me and my team was tasked yaar unko personality development course karke aao, so that their managers and the higher ups are able to take decisions and bring the Air India to the point. So we said, yeah, we going and talking and giving sermons is no good. If we have to go, then we will go and interact with them first. So for a 7 days capsule, we spent 3 days just to understand the environment of Air India. Their job description, their application of job description, they're the hurdles that they are facing, and why is Air India actually in the state that it was. And thereafter we interacted, conducted large number of questionnaires to understand their personality, requirement of Air India, identify the gaps, and then give them the answer. So that's, I think each one of us who's transiting outside need to do this kind of analysis as to what is the requirement outside, what is my ability, what are the gaps, and how do I fill up those gaps. Thank you. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thanks, Jeevan sir. I think you also helped answer a lot of questions for the veterans. So I think taking from Praful's answer, I think we need to use LinkedIn as a very, very important tool for our transition. And as Praful said, there's no use of having 5,000 connections if you haven't spoken to even 5 of them. So pick up the message these people, connect with them, understand, and take away that uncertainty of the corporate world. And one thing about the life skill which we have imbibed from our veteran experiences, like I will give you an example of the commando course. The commando course was not to make us physically strong like He-Man. It was to break our mental barriers, that everything is possible, nothing is impossible. And that conviction is which we helps us to decide ki kaise karna hai, kya karna hai. I still remember one of my bosses in Amazon used to have a meeting and there was a new program which used to be discussed. And I just said, हो सर हो जाएगा चलो lunch करते हैं. कहते कैसे हो जाएगा? मैं सर रास्ता निकाल लेंगे. We'll find a way out. And that's what has been taught to us in our forces experience. So thanks, Praful. I think Gitanjali has raised her hand for a question. Over to Gitanjali.
Hi. So that actually I don't have a question. I was, I had a point of view on Brigadier Jeevan, what he mentioned about the dwindling confidence, when I've also observed veterans go out, they have that. And okay, so let me give you a little background. I'm a transition coach and I'm a partner in the firm which Praful runs. He's our managing partner. So, what I have observed is that dwindling confidence comes from the lack of familiarity. And what I tell my coaches is, the way to handle that is play on your strengths. For example, one of you brought about the executive presence. That's something that you have. Play on your strengths. The other thing would be interact, have as many conversations as possible, and listen. And that will help in building that confidence. The other thing Brigadier Jeevan brought about was that, do courses. Uh, uh, I feel doing courses don't get you what, it doesn't take you where you want to. Application does. So, find opportunities where you will be able to apply what you have done and then showcase it. And that is what helps. So that's what I just wanted to share a couple of points there.
Thanks, Gitanjali. I think I got one idea. I'll have to invite you and Brigadier Jeevan for a fireside chat about how to build confidence, get over those issues, nervousness while you're moving into a completely new environment. I think it's a bright idea. Just popped up into my mind listening to both of you. I will reach out to both of you. Thanks. Does anyone have any more questions?
Hi, good evening to the panel, and hi Jyoti, thank you for the invite. Abhishek sir, I am Jyoti's course mate, and I run the protective security program at the Australia New Zealand Bank here in Bangalore. Thanks so much also Praful for your insights. I really appreciate that. I had a couple of observations, and one is, of course, we learn being in the army that the fear of the unknown is always there, and that's something which is even relevant when you are in the corporate world also. The fear of the unknown is there, ki aage kya hone wala hai. But for me, my life example was I bumped into some big union guys in my first organization. Okay. And, after coming from a setup like the army where, tali maru ya, you just snap your fingers and work gets done. And here you are facing these union guys, so those fears are there, but I think the idea is to face them. And I was glad that I was able to face them and like negotiate with them on the table and kind of make certain things very clear. What will be the line which we will negotiate and where we cannot compromise, so that was the fears are there, and it's for us to face them. And maybe those fears will conquer us sometimes, but sometimes we will conquer those fears also, right? So I thought that was one. And second is, especially in a corporate setting, um, veterans come with people do respect veterans. Definitely there are people who respect, but at the same time there are not others also who respect veterans, right? They think that veterans have taken some share of ours. you know Even the civil people are good enough for the roles that the veterans are performing, so there will be that lack of collaboration, especially when the civilian counterparts are not like responding to you. That could become like a big challenge to you. But that's where I think our attitude, that's the mindset, that we don't throw our egos there, but we kind of try to take them along with us, and also project a mindset that we are not saying you are above me or I am above you, but we are all together, and that's when we focus on the organization. And for me it has worked. I have had to like ruffled up with some people like that, But I thought over a period of time, I learned how to take them along, and then it gave me the desired results. Thank you so much.
Thanks, buddy.
Felix.
Thanks, Felix. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, we are coming to the end of this session. Thanks, Praful. It was a very informative session with a lot of interesting anecdotes. We discussed about our NDA days, Army days, Air Force days. It was very interesting. I thank Praful for his time and insights, which will be very handy for the transitioning veterans. And I hope in future Praful will be interacting with our veterans for his executive search, and I'm hoping that he interacts with as many as possible. So thanks a lot. Thanks viewers for your participation. We will come up with new fireside chats and we'll keep you posted on our LinkedIn page. Please follow us on our LinkedIn page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you guys. Thanks, Praful.
Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks, Jyoti.
Thank you. Bye.